In the last class, we were trying to talk about degree of consolidation towards the end of our discussion. And we said degree of consolidation is defined as the ratio of settlement in the soil at any time divided by the final settlement, the maximum settlement, what you are expected to have in that particular soil due to that increment in load, what is applied on the soil. Okay. So we said towards the end of the discussion, now our objective is to calculate what is that value of settlement at any point of time in the soil, and the other one is settlement at final time. That's the infinite settlement. That is what we call it as, the total settlement because of the primary consolidation. Okay, so let's go ahead in seeing how to calculate the settlement at any point of time and subsequently the final settlement what we are going to come across in your soil. If you can just recall, we have discussed earlier. Okay, so we know that delta H by H is equal to delta E by 1 plus E naught. From this, I am just trying to get some relation instead of directly writing some mathematical expression. So I am just trying to derive what is required for me from this same basic fundamental expression. So on the right side term, I'll try to multiply with delta sigma dash and divide it with delta sigma dash. I'm not just doing anything. Okay. So now if you try to look at here, delta E by delta sigma dash is nothing but what we write it as AV, and AV by 1 plus E naught is what we write it as MV. So I'm just now directly writing delta H by H, which is equal to MV into delta sigma dash. So that is what I have. Now I'm just trying to rewrite this same expression. Delta H is equal to MV into delta sigma dash into H, where H is the height of your soil sample and delta H is the change in height of the soil sample. Right. So I'm just trying to rewrite this to represent in the form of your integral function. Okay, that is nothing but settlement in the soil at any time. If I just want to write it, so that's nothing but MV into this delta sigma dash into height. I'm not directly considering the complete height of the soil sample. Rather, what I'll try to do is I'll try to consider a small depth of the soil sample dz, and over the complete depth of your soil sample, I'll try to integrate that particular function. Okay, so over the integrals 0 to H, that's over the complete height of the soil sample, I'm going to integrate this particular function. So MV, we have assumed in the time rate of consolidation or in the one-dimensional consolidation theory, we said MV is assumed to be remaining constant. So I can take out of this integral function MV, and what I'll have inside the integral is integral delta sigma dash into dz. What is delta sigma dash is what I can write it as. Okay, let me write that as change in total stress what is applied minus the change in pore water pressure into dz. So let me start further expanding this. So if I start further expanding this, I'll be having this as MV. And what is this delta sigma? Delta sigma is nothing but the increment in stress what you have applied on the soil sample, which is causing the consolidation. Okay, so that increment in stress what you have applied on the soil sample, which is causing that amount of consolidation, it's a constant stress. Okay, so I can say as it is a constant stress. So let's say that increment in stress is something surcharge stress is what I am representing it as. Okay, so if I represent it as some surcharge which is additionally being applied on the soil sample, so I can say it's a constant value, and I'm going to take out that constant from the integral function. So if I'm taking out the constant from the integral function, then what I'll have for the first term is only integral dz. So integral dz is nothing but z over the limit 0 to h. Automatically, I'll be getting it as h. Okay, so for the first term, it is q is what I have. And then I can subsequently go on to represent that particular function. But for timing, let me have it like that. And minus delta u. What is this delta u what does this delta u means? It's a change in pore water pressure. So in the previous class, if you can recall, we have talked about pore water pressure. How is it changing with depth and how is it changing with the time in your soil sample means we started to say this is that expression. Okay, look at this expression. What we had, U is equal to, what does this U indicates? It's a change in pore water pressure. So how much is that excess pore water pressure that is getting developed in the soil over the depth of the soil sample? How is it varying? With increase in time at different positions of the depth of the soil sample, how is it varying is what we have talked about. Okay, the same thing I am just trying to re-represent as delta U is what I can simply write it as nothing but the pore water pressure, which is said to be a function of your depth and timing into dz over the integral function going from 0 to h. Okay. Now, let me write down my expression, what I am trying to get according to my requirement. And if you can understand, at time t equal to 0, if we are trying to talk about the amount of increment in stress or that surcharge stress, what I was trying to represent earlier, okay, here, whatever that amount of surcharge stress which I was trying to talk about, or the amount of increment in stress which is causing the consolidation. So at time t equal to 0, I can simply say, or otherwise I can simply also write down that delta sigma is nothing but it is equal to your initial pore water pressure. So how much is the initial pore water pressure that is getting developed in the soil sample means? It's simply what I can represent it as here, delta sigma. So where I have delta sigma, wherever I come across with delta sigma, it can be simply indicated as your initial pore water pressure also, or I can also indicate with your surcharge stress, what I was saying as additional stress which I have applied on my soil sample. So in the process, I would just rewrite my expression just only to make my understanding little simpler. I am trying to do all this particular work. So U naught minus U as a function of depth and time, it is varying into dz. Okay, this is all whatever we have for the expression related to settlement at any time in the soil sample. Okay, now when I come back to this expression of your degree of consolidation, so expression of degree of consolidation is defined as the ratio of settlement at any time by infinite settlement. So now I have my expression for settlement at any time in the soil sample, and next is to write down how much is the settlement which is said to be the final settlement or the total settlement because of that increment in load what is applied on the soil sample. So if you can recall, when I say final settlement, then when we mention final settlement, what does it mean? It is, when do we come across with that final settlement? Whenever time what we are looking at tends to infinity. So after an infinite time, then whatever settlement that you are going to have in the soil is said to be the final settlement. So when I say after infinite time, then what is this excess pore water pressure? How is it varying with depth and time? Okay, so after an infinite time, we say the excess pore water pressure completely gets dissipated out of the soil sample throughout the depth of the soil sample. We say that excess pore water pressure is nothing but it is equal to 0. It means that your second term what you have gets vanished, and what you'll have is only your first term. First term in the sense MB as an integral function going from 0 to h U naught into dz. Why is this? Because U as a function of depth and time is nothing but it is equal to 0 at t is equal to infinity. Okay, so I have my expression for settlement, that's nothing but the final settlement in the soil sample, and I know what is the settlement at any point of time in the soil sample. So this final settlement, if I want to further rewrite it, I can do that. MB into U naught is nothing but the initial pore water pressure what is getting developed in the soil sample. So how much is that initial pore water pressure means? I can also indicate it as delta sigma, which is nothing but the increment in total stress, or I can also even write it as your surcharge stress. That's an additional increment in stress what is getting applied on the soil sample, because it's a constant. U naught is a constant value, so it can be taken out of the integral. So what I'll have is inside the integral dz, so over the limit 0 to h, so automatically it comes out to be MB into Q into h. Either I can represent it as Q, or I can represent it as delta sigma, or I can represent it as your U naught. Everything is one and same. So I have my final settlement in the soil. I have my settlement at any point of time in the soil sample. Then I can go ahead in writing down my degree of consolidation. Okay. So the degree of consolidation U, capital U basically. Okay, so this is nothing but settlement at any point of time in the soil sample divided by the infinite settlement or the final settlement what you are coming across in the soil sample. So this I can try to further rewrite it. Settlement at any time in the soil sample is what we had, that particular expression what we had is MV over the limits 0 to H U naught minus U as a function varying with depth and time, this total into dz divided by the final settlement or the settlement after infinite time. So that's nothing but MV into Q into H. So I can cancel out MV from numerator and denominator. Then if I further go on to expand it, then from this first term I can take U naught common, because U naught is a constant, so it can come out of the integral function. So if it comes out of the integral function, what do we have is U naught integral dz. So integral dz over the limit 0 to H comes out to be once again H, and U naught I can further write it as Q. So QH minus integral going from 0 to H U as a function of depth and time into dz divided by Q into H. Okay, so if I am just trying to rewrite it, this I can simply write it as 1 minus, because QH by QH automatically gets cancelled. So that is 1 minus of integral function going from 0 to H U of Z comma T dz, this divided by Q into H. Okay. So this is how we can go ahead in writing down whatever I am just trying to talk about. And here in the expression, if we are trying to understand with respect to the two-way drainage condition, so we said earlier we were trying to use some notation, HDR. We said this in the case of two-way drainage, this HDR value is nothing but half of the height of your soil sample. So this height of the soil sample in terms of HDR, if I am trying to represent, it's nothing but 2 times that of your HDR function. And earlier, some time back, yeah, please look at this expression for U, which is equal to U naught into summation going from I going from 0 to infinity 2 by capital M into sine M Z by H I wrote. Please do correct, this is not H, this is HDR. Sorry for it. So please do correct in your expressions if you have noted down anywhere. Okay, all right. So now if I just go on to integrate this particular function, and if I try to finally write down after writing down what is U as a function of depth and time, if I want to write down that expression, that is nothing but U naught into summation I going from 0 to infinity 2 by M into sine of mz by h dr into e to the power of minus m square into t, that expression I have to write. Okay, so in the place of this U of z comma t, so in the place of this I have to write the complete bigger expression, and I have to carry out your integral separable function. Based on that, I am going to, we are not looking into how to derive that expression, but I am just directly writing that expression what we have. So which we will be getting it as, this is 1 minus summation I going from 0 to infinity 2 by m square. This is what we are going to be getting after integration, minus e to the power of minus m square into t. This is what we are going to be getting. So where we know that M, capital M stands for 2i plus 1 into pi by 2. This is what we had already earlier also have represented. And we said that for higher the values of I repeat, for higher the values of I, so if I is equal to 1, then M value is going to be higher, M square value is going to be further higher, but inverse of your square of the exponential function is going to be lower, and in the denominator also it is M square. So higher the M square value, lower is going to be this value of summation terms that I'll be getting for higher values of I. So that's the reason why we were saying that for I greater than 0, we neglect the terms. Okay, so as I is increasing, the M value is increasing. As M value is increasing, then the relative contribution coming from that particular term is relatively less. So that's the reason why we are considering only for I is equal to 0. So if we start considering only for I is equal to 0, then we are going to get a simplified function for this particular expression. Okay, and if I just want to plot a graph between time factor represented on the horizontal axis. Okay, so I'm indicating the time factor on the horizontal axis and degree of consolidation on the vertical axis, and that too, the degree of consolidation data is represented like this, starting with 0%, maybe some 20%, 40%, 60% scales indicated like this. In percentage, I am indicating, and here it is 100% degree of consolidation. And coming to the time factor, okay, so the time factor values, what we are trying to talk about, goes from 0%, 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, and so on up to infinity. Why I'm trying to talk about infinity? Because after some maximum time, we say your total consolidation is getting completed. So once we say total consolidation is completed, so 100% of consolidation you are going to achieve at some time which is relatively maximum. That is what we are calling it as your infinite time. Infinite doesn't mean some lakhs of hours or lakhs of days or lakhs of years. Okay, so infinite time, it here indicates that after some sufficient amount of time, what is required for the completion of your consolidation process. So if the graph is plotted based on this mathematical expression, if we try to plot a graph between time factor capital T and your capital U degree of consolidation, so we would be getting a curve like this. I'm just roughly plotting a graph. Okay, right. So what we understand is, with increase in time, time factor increases, because in the last class we have seen time factor capital T is nothing but CV into T by H square. So with increase in time, then we say time factor increases. So with increase in time, time factor increases, and the amount of consolidation happening in the soil is also increasing. So after some infinite time, that means at some infinite time factor value, so your degree of consolidation comes out to be 100%. And what experimental studies have shown is, for a degree of consolidation of 50%, okay, this is 50% degree of consolidation, the corresponding time factor value what we get for any increment in loading or for any type of soil that is tested. So they were getting the value which is a standard value, and that corresponding time factor value for 50% degree of consolidation, which is nothing but it is 0.197. And similarly, for 90% degree of consolidation also, they have seen that the corresponding time factor value what they were getting is also more or less a standard value, and that we are representing it as T90, and this T90, the standard value is nothing but 0.848. You are required to remember these two values. As I said, these are standard values. So time factor for 50% degree of consolidation is what we get it as 0.197, which is a standard value, irrespective of what type of clay it is, whether it has got higher compressibility, lower compressibility, intermediate compressibility, whatever is the characteristics of that fine grained soil, doesn't matter. So for 50% degree of consolidation to be achieved, the time factor value what you are going to have is 0.197, and correspondingly for 90% degree of consolidation, so the corresponding time factor value is 0.848. So these two are the standard values which you are required to remember. And if I just come back to this particular expression, just to rewrite what will be my expressions for degree of consolidation. If the time factor value of that particular soil is known, then based on the time factor value, how do we determine your degree of consolidation? Okay, so the degree of consolidation expressions in a simplest form are given like this: 2 into under root T by pi, where this expression is valid for all degree of consolidations greater than or equal to 60%. So in case if the degree of consolidation in your soil is greater than or equal to 60%, then we'll be making use of this particular expression to determine how much is your corresponding time factor value. Or if time factor value is given, accordingly we can calculate your degree of consolidation. And the other expression which is said to be valid for degree of consolidation greater than, sorry, this is not for greater than or equal to 60%. This is for less than or equal to 60%. I'm sorry. So for less than or equal to 60% degree of consolidation, the first expression is valid. And for greater than or equal to 60%, the second expression is nothing but the simplified form of this expression. Whatever the expression that we have represented, the simplified form of that capital U is equal to 1 minus summation I going from 0 to infinity. Here I is equal to 0 only we are trying to consider. So from that, if I am trying to simplify, I am going to be getting some expression like this. That is nothing but 1 minus, I am just writing it. You please expand it and check it. You will be getting this into e to the power of minus pi square by 4 into capital T. This expression is valid for degree of consolidation greater than 60% in the soil. So in the same way, if degree of consolidation is known, then time factor, if I just want to rewrite those expressions, in the other way, I can also try to write down. Okay, so your expression for time factor is nothing but it is equal to pi by 4 into U in percentage. If I am trying to substitute, then in the denominator I have to write your 100 whole square. This is valid for all U less than or equal to 60%. And next, the other expression T is equal to 1.781 minus 0.933 log 100 minus U in percentage we are going to be substituting, where this expression is valid for all U greater than 60%. So how are we getting these two expressions? Say the previous expressions, if I am just trying to rewrite them according to the necessity of getting the expression for capital T, so I'll be getting this two terms. So if degree of consolidation is known, I can calculate time factor. If time factor is known, I can try to calculate your degree of consolidation. Okay. So why is that I am interested in looking at all these parameters? Because if you can recall, we said time factor, we know the time factor is what we write it as CV into T by H square. Here somewhere also I wrote it. Yeah, here also. Yeah, right. So this is how we write it. Now our ultimate objective is to calculate the other parameter which I said, the compressibility characteristics of the soil. Earlier I was trying to talk about some of the compressibility characteristics like CC, CS, AV, MV, pre-consolidation pressure, or the maximum pass pressure what your soil has been subjected to. And now the other consolidation or compressibility characteristics of the soil is to find out your coefficient of consolidation that exists in your soil. So now let's go ahead in seeing how to find out your coefficient of consolidation, okay, for the soil. And whatever the coefficient of consolidation that we are trying to talk about, it's calculated based on the data whatever we are getting for a particular intensity of load increment only. Because when you are trying to talk about your consolidation test, you are talking about different increment in loading conditions. Okay, so it's not that your coefficient of consolidation we are trying to talk about taking into consideration of the all increment in loading conditions. For a particular increment in loading condition, with increase in time, we'll see how the settlement is happening in the soil. Maybe for a load increment going from 10 kilopascals to 20 kilopascal, or maybe for a load increment going from 20 kilopascals to 40 kilopascal, or for a load increment going from 40 kilopascal to whatever data it is. But for a particular increment in stress acting or applied on the soil sample, with increase in time, how the settlement is happening in the soil. So based on that particular data, we try to estimate how much is the corresponding coefficient of consolidation of that particular soil. Okay, because we said coefficient of consolidation is the soil property. Once we say coefficient of consolidation is the soil property, so the behavior what we are going to predict with respect to the condition of the soil in the primary consolidation region for a stress increment of 10 kilopascal or 20 kilopascal or 100 kilopascal increment or 200 kilopascal increment, whatever is the increment, but the proportionate way how your soil behavior is going to be more or less same. So that's the reason why for any particular stress increment, if you are looking at the coefficient of consolidation that you estimate based on the time value versus the settlement data that you look at to estimate your coefficient of consolidation, approximately it gives you more or less the same value. But there would be slight variation from one set of data to the other set of data. But however, you can take the reference of any particular data in estimating your coefficient of consolidation. So here, for estimating the coefficient of consolidation, we have got two different approaches by which we can try to estimate the coefficient of consolidation. Okay, so our next objective is to estimate the CV value. Okay, so how to find out the coefficient of consolidation? So we have got two different approaches. One is called as Taylor's method, okay, and which is otherwise also called as square root time method. This Taylor's method is also called as square root time method. And the other method by which we can try to estimate the coefficient of consolidation is Casagrande's method. Which is nothing but we can also call it as logarithmic time method. Okay, so one is nothing but we call it as Taylor's method, the other one we call it as Casagrande's method. So based on Taylor's method, you estimate coefficient of consolidation, or based on Casagrande's method, you estimate coefficient of consolidation. So you will be getting more or less similar values. I don't say exactly same value because it's a graphical approach by which you are trying to estimate your CV based on Taylor's method or Casagrande's method. So more or less you will be getting the same CV values. A slight variation would be there, but no issue. You can take that value into consideration in order to estimate your how much settlements that you are expected to have in your soil and how much time that your soil will be requiring to have the complete consolidation to have happen in that particular soil and so on. So let's start with the first method, that is Taylor's method. So based on Taylor's method, how to estimate your coefficient of consolidation, let us try to look at. Okay, so in the case of Taylor's method, what we try to do is, for some particular load increment what is applied on the soil sample, I am going to have at different intervals of time how the change in height of the soil sample is happening. So that change in height of the soil sample, what is it indicating? It is indicating the compression what is taking place in the soil sample. Otherwise, I can also write it as settlement what is happening in the soil sample. So if I am just trying to put that systematically in the form of a graph, on the horizontal axis, I am representing square root of time data. See here, it is square root of time data is what I am representing. And on the vertical axis, I am trying to indicate you the settlement in this direction with 0 here, and increment of settlement is represented in the downward direction, increment of time, square root of time value indicated in the rightward direction on the horizontal axis. Okay. See, when you are trying to measure your compression or settlements in the soil for an applied load increment, so the time interval at which you are measuring your settlements in the soil are also something, as I told you, the standard time intervals. Okay, so I'll just tell you what are those standard time intervals. It's nothing but 0th minute, 0.5 whole square minutes, that means 0.25 minutes. Next is 1 square minute, that means at 1 minute. Next is 1.5 square minute, it means 2.25 minutes. Next is 2 square minutes, that means at 4th minute. Next, 2.5 square are directly 3 square minute, so it means 9th minute. Next is 4 square minute, 16th minute. 5 square minute, 25th minute. 6 square minute, 36th minute. 7 square minute, 49 minute. 8 square minute, 64 minutes. And likewise, square of that particular time, if I am just trying to look at, so that's how your standard time intervals at which you will be noting down your consolidation test data. Is it clear? So why is that standard at that intervals of time you are taking the data? Means either in the Taylor's method or in your Casagrande's method, if you have the value of time, let's say 0.25 minutes. How can I write 0.25 minutes? 0.5 whole square. So under root of 0.5 whole square on the horizontal axis, it comes out to be 0.5. So it's easy for us to represent that data on the horizontal axis. Even in the case of logarithmic axis also, log of 0.25, which I can write it as log of 0.5 whole square. 2 whole square comes to the front, 2 log 0.5. So I'll simply calculate what is log 0.5 into 2 accordingly. So that's the purpose. That's a standard time interval at which people try to measure the settlements in your soil. Okay. So if I'm just trying to measure the settlements in the soil, we know that in the initial points of time, we are not going to see much of the consolidation happening due to that applied increment in load. But as the time increases, you see that more or less you would be reaching a settlement pattern like this. Now, what are we trying to do here? In the initial portion of this curve, I am trying to draw a tangent. Let's say this tangent, I am writing it as AB line. Okay, so AB is nothing but it is the tangent drawn to your under root time versus settlement curve. What you had, settlement versus under root time curve. Okay, so for that curve, I am trying to draw a tangent in the initial portion of your curve. And once I draw the tangent, can I determine the slope of this particular tangent drawn? Yes, I can determine the slope of this particular tangent. Once I know what is the slope of this particular tangent drawn, then I am going to draw another line from the same point A. I am trying to draw another line. I am calling it as AC line, where the slope of this AC line, okay, the slope of this AC line, let me write down. How is that we are constructing your AC line? So slope of AC line should be equal to 1.15 times that of the slope of AB line. Okay, you are required to draw another line AC such a way that the slope of that AC line should be equal to 1.15 times that of your slope of your AB line. This is what is given by Taylor. Okay, so whenever you are going to draw another line AC with the slope which is equal to 1.15 times that of the slope of the AB line, then it is objective-wise understood based on the experimental studies what is carried out by Taylor. It is understood that this particular point where you have the intersection of the wherever your AC line is intersecting your settlement versus under root time curve. So this particular point of intersection, if we are just trying to extend it, so it is corresponding to a settlement of what is called as 90% degree of consolidation. Okay, so where this AC line is going to be intersecting, when you draw with a slope of 1.15 times that of your slope of your AB line, means AC line is going to intersect your settlement versus under root time curve at some particular point. And this point, if you are just trying to extend it onto your vertical axis, then the settlement what you are getting in the soil is nothing but what we consider it as your 90% settlement, in the sense settlement corresponding to 90% degree of consolidation. And this point, if I am just trying to extend it onto your horizontal axis, then I can just try to get what is called as your under root T90 value. That is nothing but the time, how much time is required for 90% of degree of consolidation to be completed in the soil sample. So for achieving 90% degree of consolidation, how much is the corresponding time that is required? Okay, now let me come back to my time factor expression. What is the time factor expression? Says T is equal to CV into T square by HD square. Okay, now what does this T means? Time factor. Let's say time factor for 90% degree of consolidation. If I'm writing down, it's nothing but CV. CV is the property of the soil. Property of the soil is going to be constant. Whether you are looking at for 10% degree of consolidation, or 100% degree of consolidation, or 30% degree of consolidation, it doesn't matter. It's the property of the soil. Okay, so I'll simply write it as CV into T, time corresponding to 90% degree of consolidation square by HD square. Okay. Yeah, please do correct me like that. Right. So time factor corresponding to 90% degree of consolidation is what we have as, yeah. So for T90, it is 0.848. Time from this particular curve, I am getting how much time is required for 90% degree of consolidation. And depending on whether it is a one-way drainage happening through your soil or two-way drainage happening through the soil, then I can try to represent what is your HDR value. So HDR is nothing but it is equal to half of your height of the soil sample in case of two-way drainage. Okay, so whereas this HDR is nothing but it is equal to simply the height of the soil sample in the case of your one-way drainage. Okay, so time factor value for 90% degree of consolidation is known. Time required for 90% consolidation to happen in the soil is known. And how much is the maximum length that your water particle would travel before it gets drained? In the case of two-way drainage, we know how to write. In the case of one-way drainage, we know how to write. Then what is the unknown that you have got from this particular complete expression? So in this complete expression, our ultimate objective is to calculate what is your CV value. Okay, so that's how we'll try to look at in estimating the coefficient of consolidation of this particular soil based on Taylor's method, which otherwise we also call it as your square root time method. Okay. Next, moving on to the other method, that is Casagrande's method, which we are also calling it as your logarithmic time approach. Okay. So here in the case of Casagrande's method also, the data what we are looking at in plotting a graph is the same once again. So for an applied increment in load, for at different intervals of time, how your settlement is happening in the soil is what we are going to be looking at. That particular data we are going to be looking at, and we are going to be plotting a graph once again. Yeah. On the horizontal axis, it is the time once again which I am representing, but it is represented on the log scale. On the vertical axis, it is your settlement what we are trying to talk about, but in the reverse direction. Okay, so at time t equal to 0, I repeat, at initial time, the amount of settlement what would have obviously happened in your soil is nothing but it is what we can indicate it as 0 settlement. And with increase in time, what we see is that the settlement happening in the soil is continuously increasing. And if we just try to plot a graph, we are going to have a graph like this. You would get some graph like this, approximately. Okay. So now, when we start looking at just in the case of Casagrande's method, what we try to do is we just try to identify some particular point on this curve. Look at here. Look at this curve which we have plotted. On this curve, we try to identify some particular point where about this particular point, before this point, the curvature of the curve is going to be on one side. After that point, the curvature of the curve is going to be on the other side. Before that point, the curvature of the curve is something like this. And after that particular point, the curvature of the curve is getting changed like this, where the center of the curve in this case is going to be somewhere towards this side, whereas the center of the curve in the second case would be somewhere towards this side. Okay, so that is the point about which the curvature of the curve of your plotted curve is getting changed. So at that particular point, we try to draw one tangent. Okay, so I have drawn one tangent. Now from the back end of this particular curve, what you have plotted, from the back end, that's ultimately towards from the end of the curve, you are going to draw another tangent. Wherever these two tangents intersect, okay, so wherever these two tangents intersect, we say it is that point corresponding to 100% degree of consolidation. Sir, can I have some settlement curve beyond 100% degree of consolidation? Yes. The settlements, because of the consolidation that I am trying to talk about, they are nothing but it is all due to your primary consolidation. Whatever I am trying to refer to here is nothing but with respect to that of your primary consolidation. Now, whatever is the small amount of settlement that you are further seeing in your soil that is happening beyond this so-called 100% degree of consolidation, this portion of the curve, what you are additionally having is nothing but it is corresponding to what is called as your secondary compression. This is for the case of what is called as secondary compression, whereas the previous one, what you are referring to is the portion of your curve what you have for your primary consolidation. Okay, so why does the secondary compression comes into picture? Just because of the plastic deformation happening in that particular soil, which is causing the soil to have a slight amount of settlement. No change in applied stress. So applied stress is same, but due to the effect of creep, for the same intensity of stress, with increase in time due to the readjustment of soil fabric or soil grain particles in the skeleton structure, a slight amount of settlement you are trying to come across. And this slight amount of settlement, what I am talking about, would depend on type of soil also. If it is an inorganic soil, then the amount of secondary compression is relatively very, very less, and I can try to even neglect it, the effect of that secondary compression. But in the case of organic soils or PT type of soils, highly organic soils, so the amount of secondary compression what you are going to come across with is going to be relatively high. Because of the expulsion of water, the amount of settlement is going to be something what we call it as primary consolidation settlement. But in the case of organic soil, you have decay material. With the time, the decomposition of the matter happens. So that so-called decomposition, what is taking place after some period of time, would certainly induce relatively higher settlements in that particular soil. So in such case, secondary compression settlement is going to be something very important for us to understand, because the secondary compression settlement could be higher even than that of your primary consolidation settlement, depending on the decay matter which is getting decomposed over a longer period of time, which is resulting in what is called as your secondary compression, or we are coming across with your secondary consolidation or secondary compression settlements. Okay. Now my objective here in this particular Casagrande's method is first to identify where does your 100% degree of consolidation point corresponds to, the settlement corresponding to 100% degree of consolidation. Then we start saying that this is the initial portion of the curve. Roughly, I can say this is the point corresponding to your 0% degree of consolidation. So at the halfway distance in between, I'll be representing the settlement corresponding to 50% degree of consolidation. And for this settlement corresponding to 50% degree of consolidation point, if I just try to extend it onto your curve, what we have plotted, and wherever that point intersects your curve, if that point is extended onto your horizontal axis, then what do I get is logarithmic time value corresponding to 50% degree of consolidation. From this, I can write down what is my T50 value. Once I know what is my T50 value, let me go back to the same basic fundamental expression what we had for your time factor. So once again, time factor corresponding to 50% degree of consolidation is nothing but CV into time corresponding to 50% degree of consolidation divided by HDR square. So time factor for 50% degree of consolidation is a standard value, which is 0.197, and time required for 50% degree of consolidation we are getting from this curve. Okay, from the Casagrande's method, we are getting this time required for 50% degree of consolidation, and HDR depends on whether it is a two-way drainage or one-way drainage. So depending on two-way drainage or one-way drainage, I can try to calculate your HDR value given what is the height of the soil sample that you are looking at. Then automatically what I can try to find out, which is an unknown, is nothing but it is your CV. Okay, CV is what we are going to be calculating. So ultimately, whether you calculate your CV based on what is called as Casagrande's approach or based on Taylor's approach, more or less your CV value what you will be getting is more or less going to be same. Okay, there would be a slight variation, but however, there is no issue. So once you know your CV value, then you can try to estimate for that similar soil what is existing in the field over a depth of 10 meters or 20 meters or 5 meters or 100 meters. Okay, you can try to estimate how much is going to be the total settlement that you are going to have in the soil, or how much is the settlement after 5 years if I want to find out, or after 10 years if I want to find out. So whatever you wanted to find out, once the CV value is known for that soil, you can try to do that. Okay, so this is how we try to estimate your coefficient of consolidation for that particular given soil. And next to move on, see, sometimes what we see in the field is the consolidation that is happening in that particular soil, what I am trying to look at, would require, let's say, some 5 years. I have some clay layer soil in the field to a height of some 5 meters or 10 meters, having certain properties. And due to that load increment, what I am thinking of applying because of the construction of your superstructure, let's say I want to construct a structure there on that particular ground. So because of that structure, there is an increment in stress of so and so getting applied on the soil strata. Now, because of that increment in stress, what is getting applied on the soil strata, I understood that the time required for the consolidation to happen in that particular soil is some 5 years, let's say, for example. But can I wait for that 5 years for taking up the construction? Not possible. I might be required to take up the construction immediately in the next couple of months. So in that process, what should I do? Should I directly construct the structure without ensuring that the complete consolidation settlement is completed in that particular soil? So if I take up the construction, what would happen? As your complete consolidation is not completed in that particular soil, then after the construction of the structure, your structure is expected to have more and more amount of settlements happening in it. But you don't want your structure to undergo more and more settlements. So whatever settlements that are expected to happen in that particular soil, due to the expected load coming from the structure that is to be constructed, all that settlements are to be completed before the construction of the structure itself. You should complete all your consolidation settlements before the construction of the structure itself. If I want to do that, if I want to finish all the settlements before the construction of the structure, original structure itself, if I want to finish off your consolidation settlement there, then I have to wait for 5 years. It's not possible for me to wait for such long time to take up the construction. After 5 years, I cannot come there to construct your structure. Then what we need to do? Okay, so our ultimate objective lies in what is called as fastening the process of consolidation. At a very faster rate, you want to complete the process of consolidation, which is expected to happen in that particular soil. So instead of waiting for 5 years, I will try to finish off the amount of consolidation what was supposed to be happening in that particular ground or in that particular soil in the next immediate 5 months or 6 months, if possible, or within 1 year. Instead of waiting for 5 years, I'll try to finish it in the next couple of months or maybe 1 year or 2 years. I cannot wait for such long time. So for that, what we need to do? Okay, so earlier we were trying to talk about some of those examples. Let's say, for example, if I have some clay soil strata here, this is a clay soil strata, and here it's a pervious soil what you have, and here is an impervious layer. Now let's say a water I'm considering a 10-meter thickness of clay layer. If I'm talking about a water particle which is existing here, if this water particle has to get dissipated out of the clay layer, then the shortest distance what it will travel is in this vertical upward direction. Okay, so what is that distance it is going to be traveling? 10 meters distance. Minimally it has to travel the shortest path distance. Okay, earlier I was trying to say the maximum distance the water particle would travel to get drained. Maximum in the shortest path. Okay, please add that word, maximum, but however in the shortest path. Okay, right. So what is this distance the water particle has to travel? So it has to travel 10 meters in order to get dissipated out of your clay layer. So for traveling 10 meters, it might require some longer period of time. Instead, if I have a pervious layer even here also, instead of an impervious layer, if I have a pervious layer, which could be a sandy layer or maybe a drainage path, whatever, coarse grain soil, whatever is there. Now what could happen? The water particle which is there here need not travel 10 meters in the upward direction. Rather, it can easily get dissipated by moving in the downward direction. Now what is happening? What is the maximum distance the water particle is going to travel in the shortest path to reach towards the drainage? So maximum distance, what is that your water particle would travel is from the center of your clay particle. So what has happened? So either the water particle which is there in the center should at most travel a distance of 5 meters either in the upward direction or in the downward direction. Earlier, water particle was required to travel maximum distance in the shortest path, that is of 10 meters. But in this case, it has now come down to only 5 meters. Why? What has happened? You increased your or you improved your drainage condition. By improving the drainage condition, your water particles are easily getting drained out of the soil sample. Okay, this is one I understood. Now, what I am just trying to do is, along with this two-way drainage system, what is already existing, now I am just trying to introduce an additional drains in the ground. Okay, so these additional drains, what I am just trying to provide in the vertical direction, those additional drains are what is called as this drain or this drain, dotted lines what I have indicated. we call them as your vertical drains. Now, what does this vertical drains does? Most of the times what we do for the construction of these vertical drains means we make the boreholes into the ground, and into that borehole, we try to fill the hole what is created there. Okay, by removing the soil, we try to fill that hole either by filling it with the gravel particles or by placing your sandy soil into that particular borehole what you have made. Okay, so we call that particular vertical drains, otherwise also as sand drains. Now, what has happened? Obviously, the sand material which is placed inside that borehole has got coefficient of permeability which is higher than that of the coefficient of permeability of your original clayey soil or gravelly material in case if you are placing into the borehole. So, coefficient of permeability of that material placed into the borehole is relatively higher than that of the coefficient of permeability of your clay layer. Now, if I am trying to look at a water particle exactly at the center of the clay layer, okay, this water particle. Now, earlier this water particle, without providing vertical drains, earlier the water particle was requiring to travel 5 meters distance in the shortest path, even with your two-way drainage. Generally, these sand drains are provided, or these vertical drains are provided approximately at 2 to 3 meters interval. One vertical drain to the next vertical drain, the distance between them, center to center distance, approximately would be around 2 to 3 meters. Okay, now in this example, if I am looking at with one-way drainage, the maximum distance the water particle was traveling was 10 meters. With two-way drainage, the maximum distance was coming out to be only 5 meters. Now, with this vertical drains which I have introduced, the maximum distance the water particle would travel. Will the water particle now try to travel in this upward direction or in the downward direction? It will not try to either travel in the upward direction or downward direction. It can easily travel in this lateral direction, radial direction, to easily get dissipated into that vertical drains, because vertical drains are nothing but the drainage paths. Water particle easily moves into that vertical drains and get drained out of your clay soil. So what has happened? The distance now what your water particle is required to travel has further come down from 5 meters. It's approximately something 1 meter or 1.5 meter. That's it. So what is ultimately happening? What is the reason for discussing all this? If you can drain out your water from the clayey soil deposit at a very faster rate, automatically the so-called consolidation process is also going to be completed at relatively higher speed, or at a higher rate, or at a very faster rate, you can complete the process of your consolidation in that particular soil. Okay, so in order to fasten the process of consolidation in any particular soil, if you cannot wait for 5 years time, as like the example which I was quoting earlier, if I want to fasten, or if I want to finish my process of consolidation in that particular clay layer, so what I am required to do is you have to improve the ground conditions by providing more number of drains in that particular soil strata, so that the water from that particular clay soil can easily get dissipated into the drain paths, whatever you have provided, and that's how you can fasten the process of your consolidation in that particular soil. Okay, so for fastening the process of consolidation, so it's not just that you keep on applying some external loadings so that now your consolidation process is going to be faster. Along with that process of applying more and more intensity of loads, you can also introduce what is called as additional drainage paths or drainage conditions in the ground, so that you can further fasten the process of your consolidation in that particular soil. Okay, so wherever you are required to fasten the process of consolidation, as you do not have sufficient time because of any factor or because of any reason, so you can fasten the process of consolidation by improving the drainage conditions in the soil. That's nothing but by constructing what is called as sand drains in your existing ground. Okay, and the advanced, earlier people used to talk about sand drains, then people went on to get advanced with what is called as prefabricated vertical drains. Okay, what are these prefabricated vertical drains means? With the help of some geotextile material, we try to manufacture a kind of a pipe-shaped cross-section material in the manufacturing industry. Okay, so we prepare such kind of prefabricated vertical drains, we get that particular kind of pipe. There is a particular instrument to drive those prefabricated vertical drain tubes into the ground. So you will be installing that prefabricated vertical drains, because installation of that would hardly require at a particular place. If I want to extend my prefabricated vertical drain up to a depth of 5 meters or 10 meters, hardly it requires 10-15 minutes. So at that place, I can install my prefabricated vertical drain, and I can move on to install the prefabricated vertical drains in that complete site within a very faster period of time. So automatically, once you install your prefabricated vertical drains relatively at a very faster rate, then your consolidation process can also be completed relatively at a very faster rate. Because making your sand drains in the, for the construction of your sand drains in the ground, so what we are supposed to be doing is we need to make the boreholes. Okay, making the boreholes relatively itself takes some time. And after making the boreholes, we are required to fill those boreholes with the gravel material or sand material. So it's a time relatively, once again, when compared to that of placing the prefabricated vertical drains, having your sand drains or placing your sand drains relatively requires time. Okay, so that's the reason why we nowadays go on to have what is called as your prefabricated vertical drains. So these prefabricated vertical drains are mostly made of geotextile material or jute material. Okay, so with time, this prefabricated vertical drains what are provided would also get mixed up with your soil what is existing, surround it, and you don't see anything called as a special drain which is provided there. So over time, maybe after some couple of months or years, once your process of consolidation is completed, then your jute material or your your geotextile material gets disintegrated with the soil surrounding to it, and it gets mixed up, and you don't see a particular so-called prefabricated vertical drain existing there. Okay, so even for further fastening process of consolidation, so people are trying to use what is called as your prefabricated vertical drains and various other techniques what people are also even adopting once they understand how much is the time that is available for them to finish up the process of consolidation in that particular soil. Okay, so if I just want to go further ahead in making you understand little more about this prefabricated vertical drains, let's say this is a clay layer what we are trying to look at. I'm just trying to talk about here, let's say, vertical drain, which is your sand drain. So this is one sand drain. Let's say this is another sand drain, what I'm just trying to look at. As I told you, center to center distance, what we try to maintain is somewhere approximately around 2 to 3 meters in between each of your sand drains. And these sand drains, whatever we are going to be placing in the plan view, if I'm trying to look at, let's say this is my site. The arrangement of sand drains in that particular site can be either done. Let's say here is one sand drain, here is another 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 one, here is another one, here is another one, here is another one. Okay, so this pattern of arrangement of sand drains, this pattern of arrangement, we call it as square pattern of arrangement. How the sand drains are arranged? They are arranged in what is called as square pattern. Okay, so whenever you are trying to talk about your square pattern of arrangement, let's say the diameter of your sand drain or the bore well or bore hole that you have made there, I am writing it as DW. So because of this particular sand drain, what is the surrounding zone which is being influenced because of the constructed sand drain there? So the water which is there in this surrounding zone of the sand drain, from the surrounding region of the soil, the water starts flowing into this particular sand drain, so that the so-called faster process of consolidation can be completed at a relatively faster rate. And the diameter of this particular equivalent zone of influence, this dotted line with bigger margin what I have represented, is indicating you what is called as equivalent diameter or equivalent zone of influence of that particular borehole, the region of the surrounding soil which is getting influenced because of that particular borehole what is made there, or because of that sand drain which is constructed there. So from that particular surrounding region, all the water, whichever is there, will start flowing in the radial direction towards your sand drain, and the water gets drained into that particular sand drain. Okay. So if you are looking at what is that DE that I am representing, so DE is indicating you what is called as equivalent diameter. Okay. So what is this equivalent diameter of zone of influence? Okay. So this DE value is approximately equal to 1.13 times that of S. What does S indicate means? It is the center to center distance between two vertical rays. Yes. Okay. In the square pattern, obviously in this direction also it is going to be yes. Okay. So S here indicates the center to center distance between vertical rays, and this DE value is 1.13 times yes in the case of your square pattern of arrangement. And similarly, we can also have what is called as your triangular pattern of arrangement. Triangular pattern of arrangement means, let's say once again, if this is my construction site, this is one sand drain, this is another sand drain, this is another sand drain, this is the other one, this is the other one, this is one sand drain, this is another one, this is another. If I look at this pattern of arrangement between these sand drains are in what is called as a triangular pattern. Okay. So in a triangular pattern of arrangement, your sand drains are existing. So the center to center distance between this is what we represent it as yes. Either distance from here to here or distance from here to here, we simply represent it as yes. Okay. So I'll be writing what is this equivalent zone of influence because of this triangular pattern of arrangement of your vertical range means it is nothing but it is equal to 1.05 times that of yes. In the case of triangular pattern of arrangement. So what is that ultimately happening here is because of the introduction of your vertical range, you are trying to fasten the process of consolidation. Okay. So these vertical members, whatever we are trying to represent, I am now calling it as your sand drain. And in the later advanced method, we came up with what is called as your prefabricated vertical drains. And once you have such kind of sand drains or vertical drains introduced, then what would happen, as we are saying, you are trying to fasten the process of consolidation. That means the flow is not just happening only in upward direction or upward downward directions. So radially also the flow is happening into the drainage paths ultimately to fasten the process of consolidation. Earlier you were trying to talk about one-dimensional consolidation. Here for radial flow also, if I am trying to write down the expression for consolidation, okay, so because of the flow happening in the radial direction to get drained into the vertical range, water particle to get drained into the vertical range. So if I'm just trying to write down the expression for your consolidation, earlier we had it as dou u by dou t is equal to Cv into dou square u by dou z square. Here for a radial directional flow I'm trying to talk about, we will be getting the expression for radial flow consolidation. Okay. Earlier was for vertical flow consolidation. So this is for radial flow consolidation. The expression for dou u by dou t, you will be getting it as Cvr into dou square u by dou r square in the radial direction we are trying to talk about. So plus 1 by r into dou u by dou r. So this becomes my expression because of the introduction of those vertical rains. So ultimately what is happening is the rate at which the dissipation, excess pore water pressure dissipation is happening in the soil is happening at really a faster rate. In case along with your vertical rain, if you are also having the drainage path for your water particle to get dissipated by traveling in the vertical direction, then your total rate of flow, what you are going to be talking about in that particular case for a combination of vertical and radial flow happening, then how does your change in pore water pressure or how is your excess pore water pressure is changing with time? If I want to understand, then it is nothing but it is Cv into dou square u by dou z square plus because of the effect of vertical rain, because of the effect of water particle traveling in the vertical direction, because of the effect of water particle traveling in the radial direction, ultimately to finish off your process of drainage. So this is CVR into dou square U by dou R square plus 1 by R into dou U by dou R. So what has happened? Because of the effect of radial directional flow, you have some amount of consolidation happening. Because of the flow happening in the vertical direction, either vertical upward or vertical downward, or both vertical upward and vertical downward, you have some more amount of consolidation happening. So ultimately what is happening is the rate at which the so-called pore water pressure dissipation, excess pore water pressure dissipation is taking place in your soil sample is happening relatively at a very, very faster rate. And that's how we are going to see how your so-called process of consolidation is getting completed in your soil. Okay. So ultimate objective here in discussion is wherever you want to fasten the process of consolidation. So we have different ways or means by which you can fasten the process of consolidation. That is by applying very excess load on the ground, so that because of that applied excess load, more amount of compression happens at a relatively lesser time. That is one way. And the other way is by applying that load, excess load you apply, but even try to improve your drainage condition in the ground, so that the further process of consolidation can be completed relatively at a very, very faster rate. And that's how you can finish up your consolidation in the ground. Instead of waiting for 5 years, I can try to finish it in maybe 6 months. And once the consolidation settlements are expected to be completed in that ground in 6 months, then I can go on to construct my structure, whatever I am looking at on that particular ground, without having any issue immediately after 6th month. Because whatever excess settlements that are expected to happen because of the so-called consolidation process, all those settlements in the ground were completed. Once all those settlements in the ground were completed, then whatever settlements that are expected to happen in that ground in the later stages, they are going to be very nominal settlements, because any structure that you design are designed for having some serviceable settlements or some permissible settlements in your structure. No issue. If the ground is still undergoing some amount of settlement, if it is within the permissible limit, there is no issue at all, because you can complete what is called as primary consolidation, but you cannot complete what is called as secondary compression settlement. So secondary compression settlement relatively happens over a longer period of time, further very longer period of time. Okay. So due to that secondary compression settlement also, your structure should not be getting failed. So obviously secondary compression settlements in the case of inorganic soils, it has got a relatively less effect in the soil in terms of very less amount of settlements that you come across. So that less amount of settlements, what are happening in the structure after getting constructed? So no issue at all, because every structure will have some permissible settlements allowed in that particular structure. Okay. So whenever the settlements in the structure are more than that of the permissible limit, then only we say the structure is not safe. Otherwise, the structure is said to be very much safe in terms of load carrying capacity as well as in terms of its settlement criteria. Okay. So we'll stop our discussion for today.